So I'm Dr. Jasmine or Dr. Blake. I am both a pediatrician and a general internal medicine doctor here in New York City, based currently in East Harlem. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about respiratory infections in children or in kids. So I wanted to kind of start with the most common illnesses. The most common illness in all of us, respiratory infection wise, is the common cold. And this is even more particular for children, particularly those young kids, infancy to school age, when they are starting daycare or any sort of childcare, getting out and about when they're starting to move around. You have probably encountered, if you're a parent or know any children in your life, when they start moving, they start going to daycare, they come home with all sorts of illnesses. And the most common one is what we call the common cold, which is caused by many, many different viruses, too many to name or to put on this slide, but the majority of them cause symptoms similar to what you will see with the common cold, regardless of what the virus is named or called. And that's what the majority of kids, when they get sick, they have. There are some other ones that are similar to the respiratory infections that adults get, and there are a few that are unique in children. The next three, RSV, croup, and bronchiolitis, are mostly in children. Some of them do occur in adults too, but this group of three viruses or illnesses are very common in children. RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus, is a type of virus that does occur in adults as well, but it's more symptomatic in children and in older adults. So we really focus on it in children because it's a common cause of hospitalization for kids who contract this specific type of virus. And I said a lot of what kids are going to get are the common cold, which is due to a lot of viruses as well. But RSV is one of the specific ones that when we pinpoint it and we determine that they have RSV, it just changes the way that we treat them when they're in the hospital. Croup is another type of respiratory infection that only really affects children, and that's because their airways are a little bit smaller than those of you and I as adults. And what it's characterized by is this barking cough that kids tend to have. They sound very much like a puppy when they're coughing, and that's because the airways are inflamed. So they have a lot of inflammation from the various virus that they have caused, and it causes their airways to get smaller. And so when they cough, it creates this sound which sounds like a barking puppy. Bronchiolitis is similar to bronchitis in adults, but it's specific to children under the age of 2. And that's because they are more likely to get an infection in the smaller air vessels or airways, which are called our bronchioles, than the larger ones, which are called our bronchi. So when we get older, we're more susceptible or more prone to getting infections in our larger airways, which is what we know as bronchitis. And children, particularly under the age of 2, are more likely to get infections in the smaller airways, and that's called bronchiolitis. This is very, very common in kids, and this also is caused by a lot of different viruses, like the common cold. It's similar to the common cold. Those same viruses that create or cause the common cold also can cause bronchiolitis. The difference is that the infection has spread a little bit lower into their lungs, into the smaller airways, and causes a lot of wheezing and a little bit of difficulty breathing, that they may need a little bit more support than they would for the common cold. Then the last three are common in all of us: flu, COVID, and pneumonia. All of these are also common in children, but the most common, I would say, are those top four: the common cold, RSV, croup, and bronchiolitis. But any host of these on the screen are likely to affect children as well. So what are some of these symptoms? Very similar to what you will see in, like, myself or anyone else, like an adult. What you will see is a lot of coughing, sneezing, a lot of congestion, so just a lot of runny nose, a lot of coughing up. Sounds like their chest or their cough might be wet, meaning that they may be able to cough up some mucus. They may have a little bit of difficulty breathing, which you will notice that children predominantly breathe out of their nose, especially babies. And so what you will notice is that when they're sick, have their mouth open a lot more than usual. And for babies, that means that they're drooling swallowing a lot more. They may have sore throats, so you may notice that if they're a baby, they're crying a lot more while they're feeding. If they're older, they're able to tell you that it hurts when they swallow. And fevers. Fever in kids is very common. I think that in adults, our immune systems are not as strong as we are when we are kids. So for children, fever is very, very common to occur whenever they have any sort of infection. And fevers can be very high, up to 104, 105, and that's common for children. Most fevers stay in the 100.4 range and 102, but it's not uncommon for children to get fevers up to 105, which is very scary because adults usually do not get fevers that high just because our systems are not as strong as kids, but most kids will get fevers in that 102, 103 range most of the time. And so most of the symptoms that they have are very similar to what we have. Sometimes kids are a little bit more resilient, meaning that they're a little bit stronger, and so they will not always kind of show symptoms until they've gotten a little bit worse. And usually what you notice when a kid is sick is that they're more tired, they don't want to eat as much, they want to sleep more. You may notice the coughing and the sneezing, but most of the time when kids are sick, particularly if it's not a really bad infection, they're still playing around, they're still wanting to eat and drink, but you'll want to pay attention to how they're breathing. Do they have any runny nose? Are they feeling warm to the touch? Once they start feeling a little bit more tired and not wanting to eat a little bit more, then you'll notice that they are sick. But a lot of the time, kids are able to kind of play through their sickness. So it's really important that you just notice any small signs that they may have. What's really important is to know what puts some kids at risk for more serious infections than others. And what I mean by serious infection is that they need to be taken to their doctor, or they may need to go to the emergency room and to the hospital for treatment. Most kids will be able to stay at home and be able to be taken care of by their parents with Tylenol and Motrin and a lot of fluids. Sometimes they will have more serious infections. And the major risk factors that put a child at more risk for having an infection that's serious is any problem with their lungs or heart, the most common being asthma. Children who have asthma are at more increased risk for being more seriously infected with respiratory illnesses because their lungs already at baseline have a chronic condition that they sometimes need medication for, sometimes not. What we see a lot of the time is that kids who have asthma, who don't even need medication every day, when they get even the common cold, they may have an asthma attack, and that's something that may cause them to need to go to see their pediatrician or go into the hospital for. Other things that put children at more increased risk for serious infection include prematurity. So babies who are born, or children who are born earlier than they were expected to, sometimes have differences in the way that their organs have shaped. Just in general, the younger that a baby is born before they were supposed to, the more likely that they have some sort of differences that are going to cause them to get seriously infected. So some children who are premature are born early, but are still very close to when they were supposed to be born. Like they were born maybe 2 weeks early. Some babies are born 2 months early. Those who are born way earlier than their due date tend to have some differences that cause them to get seriously infected. And some of those differences can be that their lungs hadn't fully developed by the time that they were born, and that they may have needed a little bit more oxygen when they were born. They may have not grown as big or fast as kids who are their age would have if they were born at the correct time. And so those kids who were born prematurely tend to have more of a risk of infection, more of a risk of a serious infection, just because being born early, we know, impacts the growth of not just their lungs and their heart, but just their overall growth. And then one of the biggest risk factors are not receiving vaccines. So we have vaccines for many, many, many of the respiratory illnesses that children get. And those who are not vaccinated, particularly those who are not vaccinated against the respiratory illnesses like flu, COVID, and pneumonia, are at more risk to having more of a serious infection. Vaccines are super important because for most kids, they are the number one protector of how we can protect from serious illnesses. Kids are going to get many, many infections early on in life. But what really protects them from having to go to the hospital or having to be hospitalized is really the protection that they get from vaccinations and from those who are around them who are vaccinated. When should you take a child to the hospital? So, this baby that's in the middle is showing some signs of what we call respiratory distress. And what that means is that they're having difficulties breathing. So, in general, for most children, particularly our babies up until school age, they don't talk very much. Some of our toddlers talk a lot, but can't really pinpoint what's wrong with them. So it's really important that you pay attention to what's going on so you know when you need to bring the child to the hospital, particularly in babies and those who are younger than the age of 7. What you will notice, which should prompt you to take them to the hospital, is that they're breathing too fast. And what you will see, like in this picture, if you look at this baby's chest, you will see that you can see their ribs, you can see below, you can see like right above their belly, that's called their sternum. You can see all of those bones. And when babies are breathing too fast, when children are breathing too fast or too hard, what they do is they use all of the muscles that are surrounding their chest to be able to bring in air. And what you'll see is that you're able to see all of their ribs, they're breathing with their belly. And those are signs that the child needs to go to the hospital because they are not able to keep up with how they should be breathing and it might be at risk for respiratory distress. Another is they're gasping for air. So if you hear a baby or a child going while they're breathing, that means that they're not taking in enough full breaths. And what can happen is that, like in this baby, you see the mouth is turning blue. It's called cyanosis. So if the baby is turning blue, if they are a baby or a child who has darker skin, it is sometimes harder to tell. But if you look at their mouth, or their fingernails, you will see that they are starting to turn blue. And that's when you know that you have to go to the doctor or the hospital. If they're very tired, like I said earlier, most children will play through their illnesses. Even if they're feeling not their best, they will still be playing. If they're really tired, they're not waking up, it's hard for you to wake them up. That's something to take them to the hospital for. Particularly if they're not drinking. We all get worried when kids aren't eating, but if you think about it, when we feel sick, we also don't want to eat. So the big thing for kids is most children are just made up of water. A lot of our children are just muscle and water. They don't have a lot of fat. So what happens is when they don't drink enough, they don't stay hydrated. And so most of their body is water. And if they're not getting enough drinks of liquids in, then they're going to become dehydrated really, really fast, faster than we would as adults because we have other ways of storing fat and storing liquid in our body. But children are mostly just liquid. And so once they're not drinking enough water and being able to drink enough, they're not able to hydrate themselves. And one way that you can tell if a kid is drinking enough is if they're not peeing how much they normally do. For babies, most babies pee anywhere between 4 to 6 diapers a day. If they're dropping below that, then you know that they're not drinking enough. And the same thing for older kids. Most kids will pee 2 or 3 times a day or after lunch, after breakfast. If you notice that they're not doing that, then they're not drinking enough. And then if they have a very high fever, usually 102 or higher, that you're not able to bring down with Tylenol or Motrin, keeping them cool, then that's something else that they need to come to the hospital for. How do we keep kids healthy? The way that we keep kids healthy is the same way we keep ourselves healthy. Talked about vaccinations. Those are extremely important. Really important for kids is that you help them to wash their hands frequently, but that you also wash your hands frequently if you're around them. Trying to, if they're sick, making sure they're not going to daycare or school while they are still having cough, fever, sneezing, all of those things. And as they get older, teaching them how to cover their mouth and nose when they sneeze or cough. Those are very important. One of the most important things is that you keep your hands nice and clean. And if you're sick, you try to isolate from the child as much as you can. But because kids, especially small ones, are always touching things, it's very important that we keep our hands clean so that they can stay clean as well. And then this is just an overview of vaccines. I'm not going to go through all of these. I put this slide here because vaccines are our number one protector of illness for kids, particularly because before the age of 2 months, most children don't receive the vaccines that they need to protect them from some of the viruses that we know cause severe respiratory infection. So the more that you and I have our vaccines, the more we're able to protect the kids around us. Children get many vaccines in their lives, as you can see here, but a lot of the vaccines that you see on this screen are targeted specifically to illnesses that impact the lungs and the respiratory tract of kids. Can't emphasize enough that vaccines are our number one protector of serious illness in kids. And specific vaccines that help to take care of kids from any respiratory or lung illnesses are the flu, COVID, RSV, and pneumonia vaccine. Flu is a vaccine that it's given every year, and it changes the composition or the makeup of the flu virus changes every year, and that's why we have to get a flu vaccine every year. So just as it's important for you to get your flu vaccine every year, it's very important that the children in your lives do too. COVID as well. The COVID series has protected many children from serious illnesses. There's now a vaccine against RSV, which is very major. Before, it used to only be for children who are at risk for severe infection, including those who were premature, had lung diseases, or have heart diseases. But now it's recommended for most children, most babies. And then pneumonia is a 2 vaccination series when they're very young that helps to protect them from serious pneumonia. And so that's just a very quick overview of respiratory illnesses and respiratory infections in kids, what things to look out for to make sure we know when to take them to get help from our clinic or from the pediatrician in the hospital, and then the importance of vaccine. These are some of the wonderful health centers in our community. I currently work at Settlement Health on 106th and 3rd Avenue, but all of these community health centers are amazing, and they also offer free or low cost care for people in our communities.